don't miss another update.
Namaste and welcome to this Wednesday 10 p.m. show. And as usual, I have Shri Vibhuti Jha with us. Namaste, Vibhuti ji. Looking fab. I think you're celebrating the proceedings in the house, it seems.
Well, there are things that are part of the normal process of life, and there are things which are extraordinary processes of life. You got to
So let
enjoy
me
both of them with equal balance, right?
okay. Let me start with something which has happened today,
Yeah.
and that is of great interest to India. After that, we will go to the House proceedings as they are unfolding, where the impeachment speeches are taking place right now. Uh, Something interesting. I think the United States has declassified its India policy, and it says that it is supporting India in order to contain rise of China. So it wants to contain rise of China with the rise of India. So that's very interesting. And they declassified this policy. And this was supposed to be declassified only in 2042, but they declassified it before leaving office so that it becomes almost impossible for the Biden administration to roll it back. How do you look at this? And how do you look at the number of other declassifications that have taken place?
One of the things, the government always operates in secrecy of its own. Whatever is ostensibly visible to everybody is supposed to be secret. As the joke goes about, that in this town, in Washington, D.C., everything is secret other than what you do. Or the only thing that is not secret is what you don't know. So, that being the situation, policy making, you always have some indication of that. And so this particular thing was in conversation long time ago, that US is doing it to contain China, where every administration denied that. Well, let's put it this way. Secrets are known to everybody. There are secret collaborations, collusions at every level. It did not take a rocket scientist to figure out that China has only one strong contender in that region, size, population, system-wise, is India. It's very simple. And I think the entire world is confronted with the Chinese behavior, which is not very acceptable. But the important part is that how Mr. Pompeo regularized the diplomatic exchange between Taiwan and the United States, how they declared they rolled back easing of terrorist status on Cuba, how they rolled back that Dalai Lama will be appointed only by Tibetans and Dalai Lama not by China. So, there are many steps have been taken which has exposed the entire situation, that how the foreign policy is played. And that's what Trump was talking about. Why aren't we transparent? So the guy had good intentions, like Nehru. He ended up with failed contentions, as a path to hell is paved with good intentions. He did not handle himself well. It gives credence to the thought that we have talked about here. He ought to have spent better time with good leadership in how to handle opposition. He didn't do that. And that's what he's paying the price for it. But important part also here is that he has invited Bilawal Bhutto and Asif Ali Zardari for his inaugural. So you can see, it is not a global policy. I don't know whether he has invited Rahul Gandhi or not, but that would be another matter for another discussion. But what is important, I always believe in one thing. I always enjoy these shows, I said these discussions, because I have learned lessons, and I'm a great fan of sports as my ultimate teacher. My worst opponents in sport teach you the biggest lessons of your lifetime. Your biggest defeats are your biggest learning moments. So if you apply that yardstick, that's what I do all the time. You lose a lot of them. You learn from what your opponent teaches you. And what I'm learning here is that democracy is now facing its ultimate test. Whether the losers or the parties involved become vindictive, and begin to take action in terms of trying to sabotage you or finish you off or crush you or crumple you. That's the important part to remember. But attack on Capitol Hill was a very sad thing to happen. I think no Trump supporter out of 74 million or anybody, whether a congressman, senator, you or I, will ever say it was the right thing to do. No, not at all. That ought not have happened. That one single incident is leading to the impeachment now, and his entire legacy being marred from that. So much so that the New York City is saying that we will not do any business with Trump. People are trying to ostracize him. Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party is saying that we will not stop our members from voting any which way they want. There is a definite action which has happened. So one incident has led to this. And if the Democratic Party chooses to become vindictive against anybody, like for example, there's one New York Congress lady. She's an ex-Harvard person, and she has been removed from the advisory committee of the Harvard University on one of the she was serving on because she was Trump supporter. Now, if you're going to single out people because they were supporting Trump as a political entity, that's not a good thing to happen. And insofar as India is concerned, we experienced a real disaster when Indira Gandhi imposed emergency. I mean, we suddenly realized that we were socialist, secular. It became part of the preamble of the Constitution. Opposition people were put behind bars. Many went underground. For a year plus, India endured the emergency draconian laws. And the Congress party at that time had to say, oh, trains are running in time. There is discipline in the society. But we all know what happened when emergency was lifted. Elections were called, and Indira Gandhi was thrown out of power. So the democratic system works. The challenge is only one. The scar will remain. Our scar was bigger. We still talk about it. That is a scar on Indian democracy, on Congress party responsible for that. And this is a scar on American democracy. So, as I say always, that the world's two prominent democracies, for example, United States and India, are under the Panchamakkar attack. And that's the important part, to know and to respond. What do we do about it? How does the system respond to that? And that's the important part.
Okay. So that's where we look at a general overview of things that are happening. And the legacy that Donald Trump leaves, I think a guy did a lot of good things, but then I think he got defeated by his own personal idiosyncrasies. That I think is probably
True.
a very, very fair description of his tenure. Now, I believe there's something going on in the House. Are you looking at the House speeches?
I did listen to some of the speeches which has happened. It is going according to the party lines, barring Liz Cheney, who is a leader of the leader of the Republicans in the House. She said that she is going to vote for impeachment. 4 more Republicans have said they will vote for impeachment. But the important part is that, Liz Cheney is a classic case of establishment woman. So Trump was shaking the establishment, and she has a interesting past, and not to say anything adverse about it, but she's part of the establishment. So some people feel very strongly about an action, but I believe my thought process is very simple: is that the Democratic Party behavior is reminiscent of India's emergency and what Congress party did there. So they are right now going all out to कहते हैं कि सांप को कुचलना है, the enemy को decimate करना है, and they are on that path. But very important points raised by, while you can criticize him for causing the violence on Capitol, but many people have said that this particular the statements that he made does not rise up to that scenario, and people are unhappy. in the Republican Party that there is a due process of impeachment. The accused has to be given a chance to explain his stand. That due process is not extended to even the President of the United States. You have to conduct investigation. You have to find out who were those people, 60 or 80 people who have been arrested. Who are they? So there were more than 100,000 people in that, who assembled to support Trump. 62 people are arrested. Who are these people? So there is no due process being done, no investigation being done, and that is not reflected well on the democratic process of the country, because you are becoming summary judge, jury, and executioner. So, and knowing full well, see, this is another important part, knowing full well to get the 2/3 majority in Senate to convict is not coming. So your impeachment is a House-related matter. It becomes a partisan action. And as one of the famous constitutional lawyer, Jonathan Turley, said that this is called expedited or hurried impeachment. That sets a very bad precedent, because everybody then is exposed to potential abuse of this scenario by the Congress. So this is where it is looking bad for the American democracy. But as I always say that, human history is full of conflicts, disasters, fights, and wars. And every time humanity emerges out, the system becomes stronger. Today, just like post-emergency, it's not that democracy died in India. It emerged stronger. We are a much more powerful democracy with far greater, regulated and well-managed election system. So we have removed the kinks and the inefficiencies of the process. Likewise, it will happen here too, because what is happening here is that we are now seeing the Democratic Party, which has been a champion of the poor and the downtrodden, is showing a remarkable intolerant attitude to those you do not agree with. As I put through a thought in my mind in the morning when I went for a walk, then when you tolerate intolerance, then the intolerant become more intolerant. This is that's a thought which you can put it in 3 words, that intolerance breeds intolerance. So that's exactly what is happening here in America right now, because there is a complete attitude that is so vicious against a person that hate is driving your entire action. Where is the call for pacifying, unity, bringing together the country's people together in this tough time? Even Trump made the statement that this is a time to maintain calm. He regrets. I'm 100% sure that he knows that the presidency of 4 years of America was perhaps his worst CEO decision. He ruined his family, ruined his business. He's a globally mocked at, laughed at because of the left, Marxist, all those groups of people who are after you. So, what did he gain? I mean, his children will say, "Dad, you must have gone crazy to become president of America." It's like my son told me that when I left my corporate life and joined an entrepreneurial life, he says, "Dad, you must have gone crazy or senile to give up such beautiful corporate perks and facilities to become an entrepreneur doing everything by yourself." I said, I love the idea of freedom because I became free from the corporate jungle. So there are perceptual shift that happens in your life. And I'm looking at that point, that what America can learn from India is the beauty of India, because we are a remarkably tolerant country. We are not tolerant, actually. I am saying that I replace the word tolerance with acceptance. We are a remarkably accepting faith, society, and people. We don't run down anybody. We have, we don't condemn any religion. We always accept every religion, And then that's the important part, that whenever dharma is threatened, things happen. Teamwork happens. Kali, Durga is a creation of a teamwork of many devas, devtas. है कि नहीं? उनको weaponize किया गया था to kill a particular evil.
बिल्कुल सबने अपने contribution किए उसमें.
Exactly. So this society has to rise to that level of coming together, and that's how you defeat the evil. So I'm talking about that. We have to teach America. Sanjay ji, आपसे मैंने पहले भी कहा है कि this is the perfect time for India to reach out to the world with India's message of Sanatan practices. And I'm here with you to lead that conversation with people that, look, if science is the way we want to go forward, then let's question the scientific authenticity of religion. I'm not even bringing God in it. I'm talking about the scientific authenticity of religion. This is where the whole thing happens, because most of the wars are religious wars. They are called jihad and crusade. Simple. So if we want to have authentic peace, I have told my Christian and Muslim friends, I have said to them that if you want authentic peace, all that you have to do is to embrace one Hindu Sanatan practice. And that is acceptance of whatever you pray, whoever you pray, however you pray, do it, but don't tell the other one that he's wrong. That's the element of acceptance that I talk about in people. So right now what I'm seeing here is that democracy is totally out of whack.
There's a beautiful shloka in Bhagavad Gita. I think it's the 7th chapter, I think. Ye apyanya devata bhakta yajante shuddhayanvita tepi mameva kaunteya yajante vidhipurvakam. That even if you're praying to other deities, you're praying to me only.
Right.
There is no concept of shirk. It's not like the Islam where it says that if you the Islamic God, I say something, the Islamic God is nirakar, without form, okay, but it is not nirguna.
That's right.
It is full of qualities, and many of them are bad qualities.
Correct.
That God is jealous, that God is angry, that God is always, that people are scared of that God.
That's right.
That exists here. It says that ye apyanya devata bhakta, anyone who with bhakti worships any other deity, actually through him he worshipping me only.
That's right.
So look at that level of transcendence.
Correct.
Nobody, no faith in this world has anything comparable to Sanatan Dharma. I am ready to not just bet my last penny. I am ready to debate anyone on that. I proclaim here that Sanatan Dharma is science, and let anybody disprove that. So that's that. Okay, but that's not our topic today. I think that we will probably take up some other day.
Right.
Our thing is that I think something on a very positive note as well, that now that we have these Americans, these what is called the Democrats, the immigration-loving Democrats, in fact, immigration addicts, as some would call them. So I think there is a bonanza for both the Indian students and as well as the Indian businessmen. And if you think so, if you concur with this line of thought, then would you also try and advise people as to how best they could take advantage of the situation?
Look, I've said this before, Indians are by themselves the most liked community as an immigrant community to the country. And, they are liked for reasons which are very valid, good reasons. One of the reasons, among several of the reasons, are that we are professionals, we are educated, we earn well, we work hard, we are least problematic from the law and order point of view. We take care of our families, we have family values, we take care of our children. We are least demanding on the society. We don't always ask for our pound of flesh, whether political, social, or otherwise. हम तो रमता जोगी की तरह अपना काम करते हैं. We are happy that we are able to drive well. We are happy that we are able to live well. So it's a very liked community. And and India में तो आप हम सब जानते हैं कि the opportunity for education, employment is not so easy. It has opened up a lot, but even today, young children need more than 90% to make it to a desired category of desired choice of school and college or occupation. Even today, hundreds of thousands of people write IAS, RBI, SBI exams to get a good job. So those competitive elements have not changed, but many opportunities have opened up because of the technology that has come. The economy has opened up. So my suggestion to Indians would be, get in the line and start applying for places. India is welcome. Even in Trump administration, Biden administration, there are 14 people in Biden administration occupying very good positions. They have already, the names have been announced. I sincerely hope and pray that they are not anti-India. Indians की एक और भी quality होती है ना, कि हमको apply कर दिया तो I have to be more neutral than neutrality demands. So वो anti-India ना हो जाए अपनी neutrality proof करने के लिए. So I say those are good signs.
Harara.
Exactly. So there are
that guy was crazy, actually.
Yeah. So he took pride in prosecuting Indians. That's how he gained his name and fame.
Yes,
So,
yes. And he was, I think, from suffering from too much of Indian guilt.
Right. So there are people, and I am 100% sure that Indians are gaining acceptance, and they're getting positions. And if they are true and honest to India, I think it bodes very well for Indian businesses as well as students, for the simple reason that India is a hungry country needing and wanting development and growth. And right now, a word about India here is that India ki jo economic growth hai, I will tell you one information that somebody called me from Delhi and Bombay and other places, because I do a lot of business development between India and the US. And they said, जिस तरह से India में economic transformation, which Modi is trying to do, is getting hampered by the left, by the Congress, by everybody who is opposing Modi. They are trying to sabotage the economic growth story. Because any change that Modi will bring about, it will be challenged by any group of disgruntled people. Because not everybody is going to gain 100% from the change. Somebody will have to sacrifice. There will be somebody who will be affected. Just land acquire karte hain to build a highway, a compensation is paid. But then the person loses the value of that land forever, any potential gain that happens. So there will be, India is suffering on that account. And people with business have told me that, साहब ऐसा है कि अब इंडिया में जो ड्रीम था कि इकोनॉमिक प्रोग्रेस होगा very fast, it is receding. Business people are not feeling very confident because the legislative measures, political opposition by the communists, by the Marxists, by the everybody else is derailing that process. And recent agriculture reform thing is a classic example again. So everything that Modi will do, eventually he will get also tired, right? If he is completely hampered by the Supreme Court activism and interference, where everything has to go to the court, then why does the executive exist? I mean, Supreme Court needs to take a decision on the constitutionality or the legality of the law, not on the merit कि किसको फायदा हुआ, किसको फायदा नहीं हुआ. अब Supreme Court ने कहा है कि वार्तालाप करिए, लेकिन वो तो बात करने को तैयार ही नहीं है. तो what is the point of such a judgment? A lot of businesses from US, India.
That was a complete overreach. And it has been roundly condemned, not just by the Modi supporters, but also by the left.
Right.
I don't know whether you've seen that editorial that was written by P.B. Mehta. He's completely scoured the Supreme Court.
Correct.
And I think Supreme Court, by trying to act as some kind of a political expert, has completely sullied its position. And I think they've lost credibility. And what I fear is that they have painted themselves into such a situation that tomorrow they will not be able to handle even the smallest executive overreach.
Right.
Because I think it is to the credit of Modi that he has maintained remarkable poise and restraint. Otherwise, where does really Supreme Court get off? They can't even handle a Prashant Bhushan. They have to let him off with a 1 rupee fine.
1 rupee, exactly.
So they are only taking advantage of the decency of the Prime Minister. Tomorrow, if he decides to take the Supreme Court on, Supreme Court won't have a single sympathizer left. I'm telling you that.
Right.
except a few Rana Ayyubs and Arfa Khanam, Kurta Pajama Sherwani, and what is called Khana Ayyub, and some disgruntled uh, OCIs like Siddharth Varadarajan and sundry cartoons. They will have nobody to support them.
Right. Now,
They
coming
may
back
have,
to the same topic, I was mentioning to
yeah.
you.
So no, let me again put this in perspective
Yeah.
and frame it properly. And let's come to the specific. Uh, Please advise. I think I was very interested in that suggestion that you made in one of those chats that we had. That instead of a lot of people looking at degree courses other than technology, they should apply in the skilled category.
Right.
And in fact, you said that okay, they can come right after their school and learn skills, and they will get assured and highly paid job that they may not get after a non-technological degree.
Absolutely. My suggestion to every single Indian student who is aspirant to study here, forget the Ivy Leagues unless and until you have a need to be in Ivy League. There are always not everybody has to get MBA, and not everybody needs to have a BA, BSc, or whatever degree. But come here, and you will have relatively much easier passage of admission and a future life. Come for a skill development course, which many great skill institutions offer here. They have an international quota. Those skill development colleges are not expensive as Harvard and even state-run universities are there. They are much less expensive because they are designed to help a common person to become self-sufficient. That's where you fulfill your American dream. So I will not naming any particular institution, but this entire infrastructure ecosystem was created because this country is very huge. So you will find a beautiful skill development institute in a remote area. Around that institute, many industries have opened up their places. They give funding, state gives funding to them to build local communities. And the local communities become they get employed by these large companies. And I can give you any number of examples because I have been very close with them, because I believe in the skills. I always have encouraged people to find your inherent talent, whether it is carpentry, masonry, or locksmith, or whatever. Build that skill around that, and you become better. You have a great opportunity to fulfill the American dream. So my request is, people, don't look at big universities and big names. They mean nothing. Eventually, you have to be earning your own livelihood. So much less cost, much less expenses. You can acquire skills that will make you globally relevant. Even going back to India with an American certificate in plumbing, carpentry, and whatever, you can start your own IKEA dream. Think about it from bigger perspective. Don't look for a tiny job. I have always been a believer in that concept. Nobody can take away what is yours if you are ready for it. That's all that is there. So if you are prepared for that, come for here to acquire skills. And I'll tell you one, for example, you are paying $60,000 cost of education, $65,000 in any non-liberal college or whatever. By doing this skill development part of it, it will be less than $30,000. Think about it. And after 2 years,
and you'll be through after 2 years.
You are through after 2 years. You can keep adding skills on a periodic basis. So, for example, let me give you a company A is continuously working on increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of its machinery. Let's put it this way. So, at this point in time, they need items 2 to 10. लेकिन उनकी जो new innovation आएगी, that will require new skill sets from 21 to 40. So after you have worked in that company for those 2 years and they are able to bring the new technology, new processes, then you go and learn those processes and continue to prosper. So that's where the beauty of the whole, and this will make you employable in India, because India is also becoming a home for manufacturing hub as part of the China containment, because Chinese industries are moving away from China, regardless of whatever China might do. Let's put it this way: whatever Biden will do, even if China opens the door, people will be hesitant to go there. A crocodile or the leopard doesn't change its spot, because unless and until China really gives true democratic freedom, why would I believe China again? Tell me that. I mean, that's the question which I ask any company wanting to go to China. So make your manufacturing, that's fine, but you will not go there anymore because your intellectual property is stolen. So there are many factors there which are very important. And Indian businesses, let me put it this way to you, sir. Indian businesses must venture out to America, must aim to list on NASDAQ. Think what happened to China.
We'll come to businesses a little later.
Sure.
I just wanted to make a little intervention here. I say that I did a little survey. I'm subject to correction, and just an online kind of, a Google kind of survey, and I found that they at a, say, 10-year, say at 32-year age, the highest paying jobs are all in the what is called the tradies sector. That is, the truck driver takes the highest wage, much more than any software engineer at that age.
Right.
One. The carpenter, the plumber, the electrician, they are the highest paid people at that level. And even if you want to stay at that level for the rest of your life, you're comfortable. But if you want to go on adding skills and take more and more, then you have probably a far greater earning capacity than an Ivy League educated, full and into debt till his neck, and that kind of an Ivy League graduate will probably be earning far less than this person who has come with an education that probably he paid $20,000, $30,000.
Correct.
So, am I right?
Yes, you are right. You are absolutely right, because special skills or a specific skill is a question of demand and supply. So even if you were to, there's Googles and others, they may pay you well because their profits are not asset based; those are idea based. But then you don't create a new asset. In these avocations, a plumber, an electrician, a truck driver, a cab driver will always be required. I mean, cab driving is talking about a driverless cab scenario. Again, people are fearing robot-based, interventions, but robot will not come and fix your plumbing. Think about it. So these are certain things which are very important, and I would encourage Indians to come here in a special skills category, because you can start your trucking business, waste management business. You can do any number of things. So that entrepreneurial thing is very important to happen, and entrepreneurial things develop because of the skills. They don't happen because of only knowledge. The skill to do that also is very important. So I'm all for it. Well, that's what will bring respect to what you do. That's important. The biggest challenge in the skill development in India is that we still look down upon a driver. We forget that in Bombay and Delhi, your driver is your actual sarathi, without whom you can't travel anywhere. You can't accomplish anything. So if you begin to treat your driver as a sarathi, as a man with a name, whether he's Sohan, Mohan, Vibhuti, or whatever, that's a time when you begin to give the person a respect. I always tell my friends who have drivers, I always called my driver who was in India when I was working there, I always called him by his first name, Jeevan. I never called him driver. Hey, driver, idhar aao. You have to give respect to people for what they are doing. But for the driver, it will take me so much more inconvenience and stress to drive from GK1 to Connaught Place for work, or from Mulund to South Bombay for work. Think about it like that. Your driver is your actual Sarathi. So if you treat him in that fashion, you change the paradigm of conversation altogether.
So, all those people who are listening and thinking of spending big money to go and chase some kind of what is called a great job, there are no great jobs there. Okay, so don't look for great job. Go for a good job. Make it a great job.
Right.
That's what you can do. That's there within your capacity, and
Right.
that's there within everyone's capacity.
Correct.
And in doing that, you won't be up to your neck in debt, and you won't be taxing your parents, because in India there's still that tradition where parents actually they think it is their duty to pay for the education of their wards or their children. But the kind of wokeism that is coming over to the young generation, I think they should also look at what is happening in the USA, where parents do not pay for the education of their children.
Sure.
So let us stay very Indian, let's stay very Sanatani, let us keep these family bonds, let us not burden our parents too much. Let's not blindly go for these Ivy League education. These campuses are they're just breeding woke culture, nothing much more. I think most of the people who are going into non-technology degrees, they are coming spoiled they're coming as damaged goods for the rest of their lives. Those are the things that our youngsters should not look for. They look for being self-sufficient as quickly as possible and then move on. Then
Right.
sky's the limit. That's what the American dream is all about.
Absolutely. Very true. Very well said, sir. बिल्कुल ठीक कहा आपने. हमें अपने हमारा मार्गदर्शन अलग होना चाहिए और विचार बदलने हैं हमें. वो आत्मविश्वास, आत्मसम्मान और आत्मनिर्भरता तभी आएगी कि when you are becoming to recognize that you are good at it, and that's what I'm doing. Virat Kohli doesn't have to be an MIT, IIT, or Harvard graduate to be what he is. Think about it from that perspective. Look at the examples of successes. Don't look at the example of failures. Failure to hota hai, but people rise up again. But look at the successes, whether sports is my biggest teacher, and I learn from there. And that's what I want to say. You have a skill for a particular sports, you commit to it, you develop your skills, and you become better. No, not everybody is going to become the number one. Ranking bhi badalti hai, but then you are better off there than anything else. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's important.
Yes, I think neither Bill Gates, not Zuckerberg, not Jack, and not Elon Musk.
Right.
I think none of them are Ivy Leaguers, are they?
Exactly. No, Bill Gates is a dropout from Harvard.
Yes, it's a dropout. So,
something happened that he didn't go for further studies. Let's put it this way.
So don't go buy an Ivy League seat just because your parents are willing to fund it. Don't make their life difficult, because I think this is also something that I think we have forgotten our basic Sanatana virtues of discharging our debts. The 5 debts that we have, I don't know how many people have that concept still. Pancharana, Devarana, Bhutarana, Rishirana, Pitrarana, and what is called Rashtrarana. So these 5 debts, unless you discharge, you do not go to your liberation. And I think that is that basic bond that the nature, that the your family, your heritage, that basic bond that was developed by the Sanatan tradition among everybody. Sanatan tradition is all about creating harmony.
Right.
The Western tradition, especially, is your what is called the liberal and the communist and the Marxist tradition, these are all about creating divisions and all about creating conflicts. They are all trying to study conflict all the time and trying to generate conflict.
Right.
Maintain your Sanatan tradition, go there and do good for yourself, do good for your family, and do not forget that if your parents have paid for it, it's not for you that you enjoy life in the United States and just leave the poor old parents behind. And when I hear these stories that the son is a billionaire in the USA and the mother is alone, living in a two-room flat, and of course, the son, of course, is sending the check every month, big check, but the mother is alone. Father's passed away. So many such instances I hear. What use is that? What good of your life you've made? Nothing. You've disgraced your family tradition. You've disgraced your country. You've disgraced your family. Maybe you become a big name in the US. Who knows? Nobody cares.
Right.
I recently heard this story, that mother died, nobody knew. and the son was in a very big corporate position in the US, and they kept ringing, the phone was not picked up. And so after some week, 10 days, they sent somebody to look, and they found that she had been dead for a week.
That's one thing which I have experienced personally. I'll tell you this. Give me that particular moment. When I came to know that my mother suffered from brain tumor, I was going to India every month to be with her for a week. Every month. God's grace, I was able to do that. But not everybody can do that. I was, that's one thing that you suffer from living in the US. That come hell or high water, you are straightway 19 hours away. You may be connected on the phone, but the earliest journey that you will take will be 19 hours. And, one fine morning I got up, I remember, I told my wife that I'm not feeling good about my mom, I'm going tonight. And I took the flight, I came here, I came to my sister's house, and I was told by the maid who was working there that Maji to hospital mein hai. And I went there. On that day, I saw her. I was with her for a few minutes, and then she closed her eyes. I'm saying that she gave me the right, as the eldest in the family, to complete her last rites. That's one regret you have living in America. So be cognizant of that fact that your rin, that Sanjay ji has mentioned about rin, that needs to be covered. And you have to be duly diligent about it to take care of that. Otherwise, what the hell matters in any way?
What has happened is people do not realize what has happened, especially in the United States and all the woke culture that has been bred mostly in the West. The Vishala Vampanth, that series that we've been doing, and all the great theories of Vampanth are all developed in the West.
Right.
And what they do is that they use all the freedom and liberties actually to subvert freedom and liberties. And how it happens, it's all rooted in that theory of individual rights. And the theory of individual rights came from a theory in science. And the theory in science, what is called the mechanistic universe theory. The mechanistic universe theory, it propounded that, that each part had its role in moving the clock, that clockwork theory. And the mechanistic universe theory, that gave rise to the theory of importance of individual and individual rights in the social sciences.
Correct.
First of all, social sciences are no bloody sciences. They are spurious sciences. And they do not follow any of the rules of universality, verifiability, and what is called repeatability. They do not follow any of those rules. How can they be science? Those are the basic rules of science. And falsifiability, they do not even accept falsifiability. Any dogma they throw up, they say, okay, this is infallible. That's nonsense. The social sciences are not social sciences; they're social pseudosciences. Let's put it that way. So all these social pseudosciences borrowed that theory, the mechanistic universe theory, from sciences, and lo and behold, the theory in the early 20th century it disappeared from the sciences, from
Right.
the pure sciences. After the relativity came, then in the 1920s you got quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics, of course, they came back to the Vedanta theory that says that in what is you summarize quantum mechanics. They say that okay, uh, superposition of probability amplitudes. That is the shortest description or definition of quantum mechanics. Superposition of probability amplitudes. Now, that sounds very big, but basically it means that, uh, okay, all truth is relative and all
Yeah,
truth is in harmony.
absolutely.
That's what it means. And that is what the theory of Vedanta is. So they have come back to that. But these damned stupid social scientists, they carry on with that as if that is the great dogma and that is the next dogma after the dogma of Christianity and Islam and Marxism. So I think our Indian people, they need to just pause and think about it. And now, okay, uh, we've already done about 46 minutes, so let's start moving into the questions answer
I
round.
just wanted to say one thing more here, adding
Yeah.
to the whole thing that you talked about here, that you said about the West, the woke culture, the West defines things. It's very interesting that how democracy has been abused, manipulated by the people in politics for only three purposes. And those three purposes are preach morality. Preach morality. I'm using that word very strongly. Preach morality, play real politics, and control and dominance. These are the three things that drive a politician. And what they have done in the process is they understood democratic system very well. So whether you are Bill Gates or me or you or anyone else for that matter, we have one vote. As simple as that. So Democratic Party or the politician, the leftist, plays upon these emotions. And what are those emotions? One man, one vote, right? So I have the choice to have one Bill Gates vote, one Sanjay Dixit vote, one Vibhuti Jha vote, or hundreds of people who are categorized as poor play to the gallery. Now, here is what happens. The liberal Marxists, Leninists, and all these people, Islamists and everybody else, they know that every text talks about God helping God's children who are poor, right? So they preach, they talk about helping poor, the grandchildren. Look at the narrative. We are doing everything to help the grandchildren, help the poor. And that is where they have perfected the model. You can't argue against that. This is where the concept which Republican Party and we talk about, give the hungry a fish. You will have to give a fish every day, but teach him how to fish. He doesn't have to be hungry any day. That is the style which the left, liberal, Marxist, and everybody plays upon, and they create theories around it. That's important. That's why they create theories, and that is the cause of the problem. The narrative becomes ever grandiose. You oppose Barack Obama, you are branded racist. Saul Alinsky. The moment you oppose him, you are branded as. So they have perfected the art of becoming pro-poor, pro-this, pro-that, without providing adequate solutions to that. And that's where the challenge lies. Their solution is stay poor as you are. We will provide you everything by robbing the rich and putting the money. So this is where the clash is happening in America. How it will get resolved? I think America is strong enough. They have fought many battles in the past. Democracies and the world history is full of conflicts, full of resolutions, wars, and coming out of that. As my favorite movie, Sherlock Holmes and the Game of Shadows, Professor Moriarty, the eccentric scientist, says to Sherlock, the world is The human mind is full of inherent conflicts in there. All that matters is whether you are supplying bullets or bandages. So that's where the interesting thing happens. And that's where you are looking at the clash of democracy, clash of civilization again happening here. This is that moment at this point in time. India is facing the same problem. The Panchamakards are going to make sure that India doesn't become an economic giant, because to become a political giant around the world, you have to first be economic giant. Chinese political strength draws itself after 10, 15, or 20 years of building the economic infrastructure, that they have their own sovereign funds to dictate a killer contract. So this is where the Indians have to realize that for economic change or the legislative changes that happens, somebody will have to gain less, somebody will gain more, somebody will have no gain at all. That doesn't mean it is a human rights violation. Let's understand the real challenge. That's the important part to understand, that if India needs economic might, then it has a political might, then it has to have economic might. India is on that track. The sun is set, the dial of the sun is set in favor of India. The question is whether we Indians will allow it to happen or not, or will we allow the vested interest to let us crippled be as a second to China forever? That's a question. It's a classic geopolitical question that needs to be answered.
Okay. So with that, I think we can move towards the question and answer round. Viewers, do like, share, and subscribe this video. Press the bell icon, and of course, do please subscribe to not just the YouTube channel, but also contribute to Jaipur Dialogues. Your contributions help us in very many ways, principally to keep the narrative going. And as I read this, it's flashing in front of me that today Twitter has taken down something like 10 Kashmiri nationalist accounts. I think just like Uganda, many other countries will have to take down Twitter altogether. Looks like that.
Yeah.
So let's move to the question answer round.
Yeah, sure.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Rev S. Namaste to both, sir. The way we seek apology from Britain for massacre of Jallianwala Bagh and from Congress for Sikh massacre, sir, can we untouchable and unseeable seek apologies from you and so-called upper caste fellow? This is nonsense. This is absolute nonsensical question. And I think I will not burden my guests with this question. And I dare you, I challenge you, Mr. What is your name? Rev S. You look like a Reverend S and some kind of a Christian name. You come here with a Christian name like this, and you please write a mail to me, and I challenge you to prove any of this. I prove this, whatever this untouchable, unseeable nonsense that you've written, it's all created by the British, and you are a British stooge, and I challenge you here, open. You prove this, and you write to me, and I'll take you apart. And I'll take you apart in the next round. Stop your damned propaganda here, okay? Next. Pranjal, Biden speaks of uniting and healing the country, when in reality, he is the one who is polarizing and alienating the right completely. He even accused Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley of being similar to Goebbels and Nazi minister.
Pranjal, that's a good observation. I will put it this way. Democratic Party, I referred to you earlier on how they are shifting the narrative And that's what is important. Right now, Democratic Party is talking about unity and healing, but their practices are not towards that. Their practices are driven to destroy the opponent. And destroying the opponent is not the solution to your challenge, because you destroy one, you have created many more. Because every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and every trend has a counter trend. So you do that, people don't forget. So uprisings happen because of that. So if you are going to put Cruz, let me say this, Josh Hawley, for example, Simon and Schuster canceled his book contract. We talked about it in the last episode. They canceled it. Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, they are talking about putting him on a no-fly list. Do you mean to say Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz are terrorists? To brand them just because they had a point of view? Where is the respect for a point of view? Were they preaching violence? They were speaking for a particular cause. You may say they are wrong about it, but you can't take premeditated action against them to brand them as evil. That's what is wrong in America right now. That the Democratic Party is practicing a philosophy, you agree with me and that's it. You don't agree with me, you are condemned. That's where the challenge is in America big time right now. Yeah.
Okay. Next. Pranjal, do you think world leaders who detest the USA see Trump's cornering by big tech and his potential impeachment as a future blueprint to meddle into US internal affairs?
Not really. Actually, world leaders have come out, Angela Merkel and others have come out against the censoring of Mr. Trump, actually. That's a positive part of it. And remember one thing, this big tech play is going to boomerang on them, because there were many Democrats led by Bernie Sanders and many others, even one of the presidential candidates from Minnesota, I'm forgetting her name right now, they have demanded that these big tech firms should be controlled. And I'm 100% sure Elizabeth Warren, Bill, and Republicans as well, they are going to come out against them because they don't allow unionization. And the Democratic Party is all about unions. So you are going to see a remarkable conflict happen right there itself. And as Sanjay ji earlier pointed out, Uganda banned Twitter. And Twitter was giving them lectures on free speech, that how free flow of information is required. Now, that's a big joke. That's the beauty of technology. You know everything in an instant. So earlier, we would never have known about Uganda matter. Now we know that the policy department of Twitter gave sermonization to Uganda. That's what I say always, that Indians must refuse sermonizing by anyone about how we are. Leave us alone. That's what the message which I talk about very strongly in the US. You do what you like, but leave us alone. And that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see, Pranjal again, do you see Twitter interfering in the next Indian elections in the same way as it did in US? And what should be done to prevent this from happening?
We talked about it in the last show last Wednesday, that India needs its own Twitter, own Facebook, because don't be surprised. Because on the issues that is circulating around, the way Twitter gets, we have seen many people's accounts in India. You spoke against Muslims and your account was frozen. You spoke against somebody, your account was closed. I wondered who was the person who was controlling these things. So, Twitter account of president was closed by an Indian woman who is a legal counsel in Twitter. So we do not know how many, people are of that woke culture, cancel culture. And I wouldn't be surprised if Twitter does that in India, because they don't like the Hindutva agenda, so to say, without understanding what Hindutva means or Hinduism means. So there is a challenge. And I would guess that now that they have dislodged Mr. Trump, India is the next target, will be a target. I'm saying that, I said it before, I'm saying it again. India, Indian electorate, Indian government must prepare for US 2020 to repeat in 24, which a much vicious intent. And I'm 100% sure, mark my word, every attack will happen in India will be branded under human rights category. Everything will be branded under human rights category. And that's what we have to contest.
Right. Amit Galagali, what is the role of popular culture in current state of affairs in America? None of the prominent faces seem to be siding with the conservatives.
Yes, because they are attacked. It becomes difficult. I do not understand the meaning of your popular culture, in what context you have used. But if I had to address the second part of the thing, none of the prominent faces seem to be siding with the conservatives. I don't understand the meaning of prominent. Are you talking about popular, well-known names? That doesn't bother me. Let's look at it from a different perspective. 74 million people voted for Trump. How many prominent people voted? I do not know. How many of them were prominent? I do not know. Prominent is like eminences created in India. So I don't believe in the word prominent. In this context, today, Sanjay Dixit and Vibhuti Jha are prominent because we are doing this show together, right? We are prominent in this particular moment of time. In another moment of time, we are not relevant. So these are very interesting things. I do not believe that 10 celebrities endorse and then it becomes a gospel truth. No, I don't believe in that concept, and I don't consider that part of it.
Okay, next. Sandeep Sharma, how do you see declassification of Indo-Pacific policy document? 21 years early, trying to pressure the next administration.
Well, Sanjay ji, I think, gave the answer for that.
In fact, that was my question.
I'm sorry, he asked your question. Yes, it is. It is. Knowing the truth, if I know that what is going to happen to me 20 years later, if I know about that based on algorithmic predictions or biometric analysis or biological analysis or genetic analysis, I would take care of that, right? So if I know that I have proclivity for certain things in future, I'll take action today. So now the die is cast. India is the villain now, right? Suddenly in the Chinese eyes, that America wanted, and whether the K Street in Washington, whoever made that policy document, and the politicians in America bought that argument, they saw that merit in the argument, and they wanted to advance that. So I think it is a good, for me, knowing something in advance is a good thing. Let's not drop the potential.
And let me add two bit of news. That is, it has flashed on the screen just before me. It says, number one, Joe Biden's Indo-Pacific czar, Kurt Campbell, has said he was not satisfied with Obama's Asia pivot plan as it lacked joint work with India. So, in a way, endorsing the Trump policy.
Very exactly, you go.
Okay, that's one. Number
Let the
two.
fun begin, as the saying goes.
Number two, Indian origin American Rush Doshi to be senior director for China in Joe Biden's National Security Council.
Correct.
There you have it.
Yeah.
So I think this two bit of news, it just shows that establishment is going to be consistent, even though Democrats as a party are going to be vicious, but the establishment remains consistent.
Right.
Satyajit Kumar, Vibhuti Ji and Sanjay Ji, thank you. Pleasure listening to you both. Do you suggest the same skill route to mid-age professionals?
Absolutely. Good. I mean, don't get carried away by the words middle age or middle age crisis or anything. I'm young, whatever my age is. The point is that how you feel about discovery, for example. Look at Sanjay Dixit here. Look at Vibhuti Jha here. We are running our television program. That skill set or that desire to do that was motivated by something, right? So you have to have that motivation to do that. As an IIT engineer friend of mine here in Hollywood tells me, good things happen to good people accidentally, provided you are there by accident. So I started my television thing in a remarkable way because it was a very funny story, but to cut it short, somebody told me, why don't you do this television program? I said, I'm not trained. I don't know. Try it. What is the worst that is going to happen? People will not watch you. That's it, right? Okay, let's give a shot to it. And I started a television program. Remarkably, the first program that I recorded, it took 6.5 hours for a 30-minute show. It took 6 hours. My wife was nuts. She said, you took 6 hours to do a 30-minute job. There's disproportionate time spent. Later on, I was recording in 45 minutes because you became adept at it. It came natural. I realize now that probably, Sanjay Dixit has greater contribution to Indian way of life through his program here than he did ever as a bureaucrat. Or I'm doing things which I never thought I would ever do. So don't get stamped by the middle-age crisis part of it. Anytime you build a skill, whether you learn photography, whether you learn anything, go for it.
Quite right. Next one. Nachiket. Namaskar. Can you suggest policies to control big tech for India?
And that's a remarkably tough question. I mean, there is no policy ready, but there are certain actions to be taken. I believe in Poland, they instituted a law or passed a legislation that any time a legitimate point of view is censored by Twitter, there will be a penalty of $2 million or something like that. Hey, that's how you begin to create. You may disagree with me. On the face of it, it sounds reasonable. Just like when you are driving at 75 miles of speed in a 50-mile zone, you are penalized $500 for that. If you're driving at 65, you're penalized $150 for that. So assess the penalty. Why did you curb my speech? Just because somebody didn't like it. Create a structure. Let's think about it. Let's think about it. How do we control that part of it?
Right. Sanjeev Rai, why doesn't Modi ji leave Twitter and lead by example?
At the moment, there is perhaps no need to leave Twitter for Prime Minister Modi. He is not making inflammatory statement, nor is he saying something stupid. And he is using the platform to reach people. So, as I say always, a gun in the hand of an army or a police officer is an instrument of law and order or protecting the property or the border. In the hand of an invader, it's an instrument of murder. So how you use that entire thing, I think he's using the Twitter wisely. If Twitter cancels him, well, in that case, I think not only he, but many of us will leave as well.
Correct. I think he's far too smart for that.
Yes.
And he will teach Twitter such a lesson that maybe even China has not taught them. Because unlike China, they've got far too much of investment stuck here in India.
Right.
And unlike the United States, where they had it well planned and where they thought they would be able to get Trump by the scruff of his neck, Modi is not going away, friends. He is not going away. So, Jack may have to go before Modi does. So, Jack, I hope you're listening. Republicans have dumped Trump en masse. 70 million people voted Trump. Is it possible a new party emerging that breaks the duopoly politics in USA?
Very likely. And that the movement to have a third party or a liberal party, there is a liberal party, there is a libertarian party, green party. There are many movements have started, but both the parties are so well entrenched that they don't let the third party come up. And it's difficult in this system for the third party to come up. So, I mean, for example, Ralph Nader was the one who ran against in the party. The Democrat candidate lost. So this kind of thing happens. So people do not encourage, you buy out the votes. But I have a feeling that if Republican Party, Democratic Party are establishment parties, and Trump by his action was a non-establishment party, people are looking at an alternate. And I suspect if the if Republican Party dump him the way they are trying to dump him, they will dump him only because of the fact that he should not have any chance of being a factor in 2022 and 2024. And that's the reason they are doing the impeachment, so that he is all forever tainted. The first ever man president to be impeached twice, even if not convicted in the Senate.
Right. Nandish Tiwari, adding on Pranjal's previous question, assume there will be no new Twitter for India. How can our right-wing leaders not get banned and take the narrative forward, and when? Let me try and give an answer. Then you may add the
Okay.
You forget. I think you completely, when people say this, they completely forget that the largest audience that Modi commands is through the All India Radio Man Ki Baat program. I think that's something that people completely miss. That's the largest audience that he has. And Doordarshan is not going away. The Twitter can only do so much. And in any case, what does he do on Twitter? I mean, he just, he passes on a few greetings. He passes on a few other, what is called, government programs, makes a few condolences. That's about all. Doesn't do anything more. And it's like this, and I was the president of the Rajasthan Cricket Association, and some media persons were, they're trying to, be too bossy. So I told them that I'm not going to give you any concessions more than due. And if you have guts, don't cover the IPL tomorrow. So I dare any channel, if they have the guts, let them not cover Modi. Let me see what happens to their channels.
That's right.
Boss, India is not the United States. Okay?
Yeah.
Do you want to add something?
No, I mean, you are absolutely right. I was going to say something similar, that in addition to the fact that he has All India Radio and Man Ki Baat, whether you agree with him or not, he has an audience. And he is not an American leader. He has his own way to connect with people. And, in a worst case basis, if Twitter were to play hooky in India, we will have our own. And that's what the India's technology guys must come up with. This आत्मनिर्भरता जो आती है, यही आज का जो हो रहा है यहाँ पे, ये हमें आत्मनिर्भरता की तरफ ले जाएगा. We no longer must depend upon foreign technology and we have enough knowledge. We have to act. And that's the message we have to remember.
Quite right. Okay. Ekalavya Singh, Pranam sir. People keep talking about listing the lies spread by Trump. I can't remember much. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to list the lies spread about Trump by the media. I think it's a very good observation.
Absolutely wonderful observation by you, Ekalavya Singh ji. Really, really liked it. Yes, because even the speech that they are blaming him, Trump became, unfortunately, his own worst enemy, because he was replying to everything. Even a lie he was replying to. He did not understand the power of silence. He did not understand the power of silence. And therefore, because he made comments on anything and everything, the media was able to attack him. And you are right, absolutely. Somebody should do a listing of what lies did he say. But just throw the word out. He's a liar. He should be responsible. He must take responsibility. The question, right, that's why I'm saying this particular thing will bring about a revolutionary process in the minds of people. That if what Antifa did was right, and what 100 people did in this one, no comparison or any particular thing to do about it. Kamala Harris, everybody has refused to condemn Antifa violence. And everybody knows about it. That's the challenge will Democratic Party will have to answer at some point in time.
Okay. Next. Nandish Tiwari. Most importantly, Sanjay ji and Vibhuti ji, thank you a billion folds for contributing such rich and original knowledge on Jaipur Dialogues. It's a movement. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Nandish ji. Dalit Hindu. As Dalit, I have never faced any discrimination in school socially. This is BS agenda driven by previous government. Answer to first question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, all I can say that through all these agendas, I have given a fair platform. There is a rupees 2.1 crore award for anybody to prove the Aryan invasion theory, because that is the very basis of this nonsense of discrimination and racist kind of a thing that Father Caldwell and D. Nobili and company that built up in down south, and then it was brought up north. So that's 2.1 crore going. Come
Right.
and have it. Prove your point. One. And second is about Manusmriti. He said that, okay, that caste system is there in Manusmriti. So there is a 6 lakh prize. You prove that the Varna Vyavastha or the Varnashram Dharma is based on birth, that it is birth based. You show anywhere in Manusmriti and win 6 lakhs. And this has been there for a long time. And some Johnnies come lately have also come, but they turned out to be fools. I went back. Anyway,
I just
so
wanted to add
we have
here.
given a fair platform to anybody to prove.
Right.
And that is
I
why
will
we.
also add here, simple thing, that recently Cisco in California faced a state lawsuit in which they have used the caste system as an attack forum. And they said that Indian Hinduism is all about caste, and they have not refused to acknowledge that. Hinduism is not about caste. So what we have to do in America, we are fighting a lot of domestic issue in terms of Hinduism in America. What I definitely want is a little bit of a support from institutions from the government side. The Indian consulates and others must get more proactive, because those become the spokesperson. We have no spokesperson here. We fight as an individual, and that's the challenge. When there is an institution fighting an individual, it becomes an uneven battle. So, for example, recently, I don't know whether you saw this or not, the Council of American Islamic Relations, CARE, issued a 100-point agenda for Biden government to address, of which items 24 to 28 or 42 to 46 refers to taking action against India on CAA, 35, Kashmir, and human rights violations against Muslims. Think about it. I asked this question of Hindu American Foundation and Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America. What are you doing about it? That's the kind of thing, awareness. Others are doing what they want to. Are we doing what we must? My favorite phrase, your enemy will do whatever it wants to. Are you doing what you must? That's the question that we need to answer.
Exactly. Satyajit Kumar, Antifa has shut a book outlet in USA for selling a book called Unmasked. What is happening to USA? Ronald Reagan said that if ever fascism comes to America, it will come in the garb of liberalism.
Yes.
That's what is happening.
That's what is happening. Exactly. I don't need to add to this. And none of the Democratic Party people will condemn that. That was a book written by Andy Ngo, who is a Vietnamese, who was beaten up because he was covering the Antifa riots. He has written a book, and his book is not being allowed to be sold.
Anyway, I think has Amazon deplatformed the book yet?
I don't know. I'll check that out because I want to read that book.
Now I'm quite sure that this book is going to become a huge bestseller. Because now even I think I should read that book.
Passion to do that.
Yes. Sometimes people do that, that they write a book, it's not doing well. Then they go around telling people, hey, please, can you get my book banned? If you get my book banned, then I think it will sell well. So I hope Antifa is not actually doing him a favor.
With hired killers, you mean to say?
Abhi Tripathi Island. Can Trump reach his base after ban? Fox betrayed.
Listen, it's a free country. He may not be able to contest an election after his ban, but the issue is wide open. He has to be a sitting president to be punished. Mere impeachment doesn't ban anything. It's only conviction by the Senate will begin to operate certain provisions of that. And that matter is not clear yet. But Fox, yes, Fox did betray him. As saying that Fox suddenly became Fox changed after Paul Ryan entered the board. And Paul Ryan was Mitt Romney's vice presidential candidate. He was a House leader when he did not give the money for. That was a brief moment of 6 months or 4 months when Trump was in power, and House, Senate all belonged to Republican Party in his first year, 2016, 2017. And that's the time when the never Trumpers denied him. And he can definitely reach his base, yes.
Right. AD Singh, what is your take on China funding a lot of Indian greenhorns, entrepreneurs, and forces trying to undermine the shift to market economy, like recent farmers' agitation? What can we do? What can one do?
Would you like to answer that? Your first two.
I think
I will take
you can take this, yes.
Sure, of course. Because it all happened in India, so I thought maybe you have a much greater grip on it. Important part is very simple. What can Indians do? That's the important question. As I always say, what do you think must be done, Mr. Singh? It's not a question to you, but an inquiry with you. That as जागरूक इंसान, अगर हम ये देख रहे हैं कि हमारा दुश्मन ये कर रहा है, हमें क्या करना है? We know that we have to acknowledge one simple basic truth, that China and Pakistan don't mean well to India. And they will exploit every single playbook in the democratic tool to take advantage of you. So we are inviting foreign capital, but we want to make India a difficult place to do business with. So we have to relax our rules. We have to create our system in such a way that we don't let China come in here, and be clear about it. Be ready to punish China. Take them on. It is important to take them on. You can't allow lies to be perpetrated. Yes, money is required. Capital flows from many places to another. Lakshmi has only one roof. So let's kind of face that scenario and make sure that we make capital available. We make availability of capital and exit and entry of capital easier. You become more prosperous from that point of view. Thank you.
Aniruddhan Nambi, seeing the way the US universities and corporates interfering in state affairs, can our dharmic separation of knowledge, state, economics, and services be a useful guide in future? I think a very good question. I mean, that is the original, that they have two-way secularism. We had four-way secularism.
Exactly. Yes, you are totally right. It will help. We have, the only thing is that our dharmic traditions, we are ourselves not operating on that. Unless and until we operate and set that example that it can work, we can't market it to others. So we have to learn to make it work in our own frame of reference first. Then it will work anywhere.
Okay. Krishna Sundar, by BLM standards, Shaheen Bagh, Bangalore, and farmers are the most peaceful protests. If you give them an inch, they'll demand a mile. How many more examples do we need to learn?
When your enemy abuses the democratic practices to abuse you, you have to be firm on that. And farmers' thing was one such. Shaheen Bagh was another. And this will continue to happen, sadly enough, because every economic transformation activity that India needs to become a global player, to fulfill becoming a $30 trillion economy in 10 years or 15 years' time, will require shifts. And I would put it one simple thing, that you have to put them. Protest is another, violence is not. So if you become violent, then there are consequences. You have to enforce the law. That's the important part. In India, everybody thinks we will be able to short circuit the law, and that message must not happen. It's like United States. If I commit a traffic offense, the policeman comes to give me a ticket. If I give him a $10 bribe to escape a $150 ticket, he will give me a second ticket, bribing the government official on duty, $300. We have to have that kind of a mechanism that people do not. There may be cops who are drug dealers. I do not know that. But the armed janta, the way they see it, comply. That's the message that needs to happen. I am saddened to see that in India at times, if my cab was caught, the guy said, "Don't worry, sir, 50 rupees दूंगा, चला मामला खत्म हो जाएगा." And they say the police वाले तो बिकते हैं साले, तो 50 मैंने ज्यादा दे दिया, आपको जल्दी थी, नहीं तो बस बहस करता 20 में मान जाता. That is the thing that must change in India. So you are totally right. We have to stop. Enforce the law. That's important. Enforcement is the biggest confidence builder in law and for people.
Okay. Nachiket, do you think Democrats are looking for 15, 20 years of power by making Republicans villains? Can Tulsi join Republican Party? A new party may emerge.
Of course, power corrupts absolutely. There in the US so far, I don't remember any incident where one party has been in the presidential thing for more than 8 years. People like change. So it has been a shift like that. But if you want to hurt your opponent, you want to rule all the time. Can Tulsi join Republican Party? Of course she can. She has Democratic Party has virtually disowned her because of her Hindu credentials, by the way. Because she's a soldier, she's fought in the war, she knows things, and she questions people. So I suspect there will be a realignment of forces very soon. Somebody likes your book a lot.
I was on the mute. Okay. Keep opening. I like your book, Unbreaking India. Thank you, Nayanji. Thank you very much. Ninad Shirsagar. This Manusmriti thing is overblown. It is just one of many smritis, and no Hindu samrat or king never implemented it, and there is no single Manu. You're right. You're absolutely right. But this is their strongest weapon. So I choose to attack their strongest weapon. As simple as that. If you cannot prove your strongest suit, what you think is your strongest suit, then you are all trash. I don't have to prove anything else. As simple as that. That is why I say, okay, Manusmriti, your translation, the translation that you like the most, even in that you cannot prove. Aniruddhan Nambi, is there a correlation between the rise of woke socialism and collapse of American societal structures like the family? I think that's a very good point. In fact, they attacked the family right in the 60s. And that is where the slide began, actually.
Right. I totally agree with you. I mean, there is a woke socialism and the family values. It is American family values. They traditionally hold it very close. You will always find, other than one president, I think Reagan, who had his second wife, but all presidents, they had strong family values, including Bill Clinton, married to the same woman, living a life of their own. It is at a micro level, the society is little in a haphazard way. It's like my kid, your kid, and our kids. The family values exists as a ephemeral thing or esoteric thing, but the real family value doesn't exist. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the society is weak. And many Black professionals are talking about it. The Black lives and Black discrimination that happens because Blacks don't have a family life. And many traditional Black guys are saying that we were the strongest with reference to family values. So you are right. It is a remarkable decline in the system the moral fabric of America that is causing a lot of problems.
Devansh Negi, we need more people to do video session as our uh,
Grandparents.
grandparents witnessed independence and our parents were first born citizen of independent India, or else the void would nurture misguided Kanaya Kumar, etc. I think the first generation born after independence. That's Vibhuti Ji's and my generation. We are probably the greatest. We are probably the greatest culprits. So that is why we are trying to make amends now.
Good one. I like that answer, right? Very good.
Sachin Gupta, were Trump buddies stupid to do a failed coup like Munich Putsch, or Dems were too smart to start a Reichstag fire so they can create new security laws?
Very smart observation, Sachin. I must compliment you for that. The only thing is that whoever, I don't know whether it was a coup. I mean, what was Trump trying to do? Staging a coup by 100, 200 people by storming into the Capitol. That was not going to work. So my question is very simple. What were you drinking at that time? That was too pathetic an attempt. And I think every time Trump has said anything or done anything, the Democratic Party has overblown things. Let's put it this way. I am all for evidence. I am all for punishing the goons who did that. But let's investigate. If we can catch a woman on Canadian border who sent some arsenic related thing or one of the chemical related envelope and was detected and found, if we have the technology, I think FBI knows already. I think they are trying to see under which statute these people can be booked and who is taking advantage of. And the Democrats are definitely inflaming the matter. I mean, this doesn't deserve the drama of impeachment right now. It doesn't.
Manik, what's the future of design thinking and additive manufacturing in India and USA? Throw some light on job prospects of design thinking in India and USA.
Are you talking about is an engineering design, architectural design? What are you talking about here? But this country, remember one thing, the West, one thing which I give credit to them is that they have designed things. They're very proud of designing things, whether it's a car or whether it's XYZ. Additive manufacturing, I'm not too sure. I don't understand your question about it. But I think this needs a separate dialogue. And, India needs to work more on the design technology part of it for sure. Because we imported everything, whether it was an Ambassador car or Fiat car. We failed to create things Indian, as I call it. That's what is important. And let's learn from that part.
Right. Deepak Guru sir, in US, do you need educational qualification to work as a business executive, or a simple interview would suffice?
This is a country where they don't discriminate on age, gender, and many things. You apply for a job, if you have sufficient skill and experience of doing something, they will hire you. That I know. That happens. I may not have, I'm not a TV commentator, but I run a TV program of my own. Can I join another television company? Yes, I can. But I'm enjoying the way I'm doing it. So, but your answer to the question is, if you can definitely prove that you have the requisite experience and skill, you have a chance of being hired.
Vijay Nangli, CNN was conspiring to get Tucker Carlson's talk show on Fox Channel banned. Is this even possible? Is USA just a few months behind in following political events, protests in India?
I think the Democratic Party is learning a lot from the protest culture in India because it works. And, pressurizing things is there. The easiest way they did with some of the Republican Party Fox shows was they pressured on corporate advertisers to pull their advertising. So, for example, you may have seen the number of corporates that have withdrawn funding for the Republican Party. So just because you do that, and CNN has remarkably poor rating compared to Tucker and Fox shows. So the question is, it is really sad. I mean, the freedom of dissent is over in America. They're threatening that. And that's the problem, Democratic Party. Have you seen Nancy Pelosi gets upset the moment somebody questions her? And when she says that I worked against providing the relief checks because that would have given credit to Trump. How vile that statement is. How vile that, I mean, nobody's asking a question on that. That you suspended the release of approval of the budget because if the relief checks were sent to people, they would have voted for Trump. And both Schumer and Nancy Pelosi said, but no media is talking about it. So if Tucker raises that question, then you begin to, pressurize people not to judge you for what you do, not what you say.
Quite right. I think U.S. The business interests have gone completely haywire, and that seems to be the situation there. Of course, in India, with all that hullabaloo and all the noise that is being made, I don't think they're making any headway at all. The dry run was the 2019 elections. That was the dry run. And they did everything to vilify Modi.
Right.
And my God, how they failed. A magnificent failure.
Yes. I mean, Cambridge Analytica also tried its own stunt.
I put it the other way. In fact, I say that the dry run for this Trump election was actually 2019 India election.
2020 was a desperate way, because if Trump had won, my opinion is that if Trump had won, liberals could have kissed their agenda goodbye for many years. And that's why it was important.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this 2020, what happened in 2020 in America, a dry run was conducted in India in April, May 2019. But that turned out to be, I should say, a super flop show.
Yes.
And that turned out to be a super flop show because you had a master craftsman at work. And that's why I always told you, I said that this Trump, he should take some lessons from Modi.
Right.
Anyway, let's go to the next one. Eklav Singh. Unlike Trump, Modi ji has mastered the power of silence. In fact, he surpassed that by first instigating the opposition to make noise and then giving them silence and making them look like fools. I think he's just supporting what I said.
Yes, you are right, Eklav. You're absolutely right, sir.
Ninachi Sagar said, now that it's looking Republicans are set to abandon Trump, who will be the face of the Republican Party in 2024? Nikki Haley, Ted Cruz. I think he's not mentioned Mike Pence.
Mike Pence, you have not talked about Marco Rubio. It will be, or return of Jeb Bush once again. That is a big speculation, but what will happen is that you will see the knives sharpening from 2022 onwards, when the congressional elections happen, the midterm election, as they call it here.
Karanji, Patram Pushpam, thank you. Girish Bilor, क्या हो कि लेफ्ट टेररिज्म को बैन कर दें? लेफ्ट टेररिज्म को बैन करने से क्या होगा? उस ग्राउंड पे काम करना पड़ेगा उसके लिए. Next. Shavarinath, I am astonished that no protest on labor reform. Good point.
Yeah.
In India, yes. They were also, along with the farm bills, they also passed the labor reform bills, no?
They missed it.
They missed it.
They missed it. They forgot about it. Now you have reminded them.
Well, not just they forgot about it, even I forgot about it, even you forgot about it. So all of us forgot about it. Thank you, Sanjay sir, Vibhuti sir, for a wonderful, informative session. Thank you so much. Vibhuti ji, pranam. Karan Batra, would you be willing to do a special session around importance of managing data and data science for India's future?
Absolutely. I worked for a company, Reserve Bank of India, American Express, where data was the most important thing. So, by the way, just to give you a heads up on that, I say this with pride that when I was training in RBI, there is a department called Public Debt Office. Everything was manually done. All the bond sales and all the bond purchases, which were done by big banks into crores of rupees, they used to remain unreconciled due to manual process for days and weeks. That's what Harshad Mehta exploited. So that's where you knew that there was a money floating with no claimant. State Bank of India bought 20 crores worth of bond, XYZ bond, NTPC bond or whatever. चेक तो लिख दिया लेकिन रिजर्व बैंक की बुक से भी गया नहीं है. वो जब जाएगा तो 20 दिन हो गए. Money is floating. That's where I'm a big fan of data science. It's data. That's one thing which I understand in technology, in big data analytics. That's all I understand, because in American Express we used to do that.
Okay, so let's do the next session on that.
Right.
Why not? Handling big data and data analytics. Some challenges playing out in India may require strong arm tactics by Indian government. How is Biden admin likely to react? Trump did not intervene. Nor will Biden.
Nor will Biden. Biden has too many things on hand. That's one thing. And second thing is very important here. What is essential for India to do, like I always say, हमें जो करना है वो हमें करना है. Strong arm, weak arm, soft arm, or giving a bouquet of flowers. If my goal is to accomplish something, we have to do it. As simple as that. Nobody need to have a locus standi to comment on internal matter of a country. And we should proudly uphold that. There are strong arm tactics required at times. Do it.
Quite right. Abolishing 370 was a strong arm tactic. Nothing of that sort has been done in the last 70 years.
Right.
Uganda showed Makkar, Dorsey, and Zuckerberg their level by banning. Whole world, including India, should follow the suit and kick them out. I think how much have they lost on the bourses?
I think Twitter lost about $5 billion for market cap or something, and Amazon lost $35 billion in market cap.
Good. And just imagine what happens if India bans them. How much will they lose? Will they go bankrupt?
Well, we'll teach them. I think Amazon will wonder. The important part is the way Mr. Modi is conducting himself. They can't attack Modi. They may use Hindutva agenda. But that is something for you and I and the rest of the country to stand up to. Yeah.
Oh, we'll find ways and means to conduct our agenda. They cannot beat technology. No. So the technology is there. So we'll find ways to connect. Next one. Arvind Patel. After Nixon's victory, no president ever got 60% votes. Isn't the American society divided politically, to say the least, in the last few decades?
Yes, you are right. I mean, it has become closer. That's how I'll put it this way. You know, the extremes have become wider, and the middle has become thinner. That's why getting 60% vote is impossible today in today's America. So that's why if you got 51, you won. That's the way it is. You are right.
Next. Krishna Sundar with never Trump rhinos in the Senate. How likely is it to get a 2/3 majority to impeach President Trump?
As of now, unlikely to get 2/3. Because 2/3 is a pretty large number in the Senate, and out of 50 Republicans, you don't expect, there will be some Democrats also who will not vote for. So, that Joe Manchin is one such person. There may be 2 or 3 Democrats, Republicans who would vote, but 2/3 not happening.
Okay, next. Avinash Kumar, dear sir, I feel highly offended when Sanatan is compared with those with Middle East pagans. Sanatan at its very origin was absolute, complete, and the last. We had likes of Maharshi Vyas, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Mahavir already 500 BC. People are now saying 5500 BC. In fact, it is first spiritual descent ever on human mind. Is a classical pathway, and any descent of this, in fact, is real pagan. I think we have to just agree to what he's saying. I think there's nothing that.
The important part I will also add here is that we have to carry this message forward. That's the point which, when I talk to my American friends, they tell me, why the hell don't you organizationally talk about this? But we are organizationally weak in terms of propagating, not proselytizing, but propagating. That's required.
Right. Next. Sandeep Sharma, how far is Mike Pompeo from becoming president? He seems a tough guy.
Well, he's a tough guy, no doubt, but I don't think he's ever going to try to become a president. He was a good Secretary of State, in my opinion. He was a good part of CIA also. So I found him very likable in terms of his policy prescriptions. He is a tough guy, yes.
Okay. Next. Kumar Sagar Singh Parihar, Sanjay sir, please open membership option for JD YouTube. I think we'll inform you very soon. There's something that we're thinking about. Okay. Krishna Sundar, Poland will pass a law that fines big tech $2.2 million every time they unconstitutionally censor lawful speech. India should do it too. I think so.
We refer to this.
Yes. Absolutely. Next. Democracy survived for almost 200 years in ancient Greece, but once expired, no one ever thought for that for another 2,000 years. Where the modern democracy has reached expiry date once more.
Yeah, that's why I had tweeted some time ago that India must advance its concept of Sanatan Dharma and establish democracy. Maybe it is time for India to practice and create the conditions of satisfaction for that. That's important. We have imbued democracy, Western democracy. So just to give you an example, do we need to follow the concept of freedom of religion? That's absolute hogwash, because we already are Sanatani. We have no religious bias. Pray, don't pray. There is no mandate. There is no restrictions. Why did we bring in freedom of religion in our constitution? We should reject it. Absolutely. Let's begin from there, for that matter. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Thank you, all viewers. We've finally reached the end of a grueling session. 1 hour 48 minutes as we count. And wonderful having you, Vibhuti Ji.
I enjoyed it.
Thank them all and bid them good night from here. Thank you, all viewers.
Good night, everybody, and thank you.
Jai Hind, Vande Matram.
Jai Hind and Vande Matram. Take care.
Press the bell icon on YouTube